Hickok 45, and why are you looking at me? My ugly face. I have some beauty on the table. Take a look at that, would you? Yeah, that certainly surpasses my looks, doesn't it? M1A, M14, and a Garand. It doesn't get a lot better, does it? Wow. We're going to do a little comparison here of the in both of these. I might shoot some Lake City. I don't know. I've got some Federal loaded up in clips, and got some Lake City that I bought loaded, okay, from 1969, I think. And we're going to just give you basics of the difference between the Garand and the M1A M14. All right, been meaning to do this for 7 or 8 years, so we thought we'd get right on it. I've owned both for a good while. I don't know everything there is to know about them, but if we don't get anything else covered, I want at least for new shooters and people that maybe have had one but they haven't had the other, just kind of give you a little summary of just the 4 or 5 basic differences, what you get, maybe a little bit about the time frame. All right, then we may talk about a few other things if we don't go past 45 minutes, okay? But that's the basics. So you got the M1 Garand, hero of World War II, right? Okay, and even into Korea, but the hero of World War II, and that's why it is so, one reason, it's so revered. You know, Patton called it the greatest battle implement of all time. And of the times, he was, I think, correct. And you might think it still is, okay? Some people do. You know, this thing is not obsolete. It shoots a 30-06, which is similar to a 308. That's where the 308 kind of came from. And it still works, gets the job done. It's not high capacity, but it holds 8 powerful rounds, and you can reload it pretty quickly if you have any experience at all with it. Okay, great sights, powerful rifle, pretty reliable, and all of that. You know, it's and the guns are not all that different. That's the thing. There's not a ton of difference between the two. We'll talk about what's different, okay? So that was around, I think, adopted around 1936, I believe, in that vicinity. And for about 20 years, that was I guess the infantry or the issue rifle. All right, now we had the carbine, we had a lot of other firearms, but this was basically our battle rifle for about 20 years, all right, officially. And but I think I read that around 1944 we were actually working on upgrading it and improving it. So even before the war was over. And what we ended up with is the M14. And really, some might disagree, but the M14, M1A, this is basically an improved Garand. Now, you may disagree with that word improved, but that's what it really is meant to be. Improved Garand. All right, the biggest difference is, which maybe most of you or a lot of you already know, is that it takes a box magazine, and you can see it sticking out there. There's nothing in the chamber. It does have a couple of rounds in it, but that magazine loads like more like typical magazine that you're aware of. We are in a lot of firearms, whereas the Garand's a different system. But that magazine, and then they changed the gas system on it. Okay, and a few other changes too. But those are the big ones. It's got a shorter, I think it's a short stroke gas system, whereas the Garand's a long stroke gas system. And it's a little different affair, okay? It goes all the way out here, and you got a screw on the end. And you can see this, here's your pistons in here. You got a tool for taking that loose and taking it out to clean it and everything. With this, you got in the end here, you take that screw out and work on it, clean it, and all that. But those are the two biggest differences, I guess, okay? And, of course, this was chambered in 7.62 by 51, which is, 308. And the Garand is chambered in, what? 30-06, right, 30-06. So those are some of the biggest differences, and we'll talk. Now, you know how a box magazine generally loads, whether it's an AK, like I said, has a few rounds in it, or it's AR-15 or anything like that. You just pop the magazine in, pull the bolt back, put it around the chamber, and you're ready to go, more or less. All right. The Garand, different affair, and many of you have probably seen. If you've seen our videos, you know how they work. Okay. We've been messing with it there, so we got a little dirt on that. Been shooting it some. You have this end block clip, holds 8 rounds, and you put them in that, and then you push it down in there. The gun has an internal magazine, whereas the M14 M1A has an external magazine. So the magazine's in there, and you load it with this clip, okay, an M-block clip. And that's the way they were issued. You know, ammo would be sent, of course, during war or non-war, anytime. Soldiers would receive their ammo in these clips, and they would just carry a lot of those, and they'd pop it in there and have 8 shots. Now, while we're doing this, I'll also, again, put my ears in, but I'll show you that you want to be careful loading it. You want to hold the operating rod handle there, the bolt handle, because when you push it down in there and it clicks in, that thing will fall forward sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't, but you don't want to get your thumb caught in there, so you have your hand against it, your little finger there. Whatever's comfortable for you is a smart thing to do, okay? And your safety is right there. Push it forward, and you're ready to go. And some of you have seen this in action. This was made during World War II and carried. What was it, 43? 40? Yeah, I think 43. So it was used in World War II. There with the clip. So the clip jumps out. I'll pick it up when you fire that last round. It pops out and hits the ground. I've read that you know, a lot of people will say, "Yeah, that was terrible," because it warns the enemy, lets them know, informs them that you're empty. Well, maybe. I think if there's a lot of gunfire going on, no one's going to hear that too well. But also, they would use that too, if under circumstances, to just throw one. Have an empty one and throw it, or maybe, I don't know how you get the sound to make, maybe flick with your fingernail and make someone think you're empty too. So it works both ways, doesn't it? But that's how that loads, and you can pop it in there actually, and even, let's see, I've got some 30-06 rounds here. You can actually you know, load it. Say you got a couple of rounds in it. I mean, you can load it in the gun. You got to hold the bolt back, make sure it doesn't get away from you there. Okay. Remember that bolt now. You don't want it to hit you. So you can load it, or if you, let's say you fired 7 or 8 and you have a little, well, not 7 or 8, but 2 or 3, and you've got a lull in the action, you could open this up, make sure you got your hand on that bolt, and you could top off the clip and get 8 rounds again. A lot of people think you can't top off a Garand, but you actually can, okay? Well, look at that. Now I've got more rounds in it. You know what that means? I've got to shoot something. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Let's shoot this paper target here. We want to put some rounds on it with the Garand and the M14. We'll get that later. And I don't want any of the rounds out of the bull, the blue or the red, okay? It's a rifle. I don't want that to happen. So that's kind of how it works. Holds 8 rounds, and it's different if you haven't seen it yet. You can put 1 in the chamber and load it. You can top off the magazine, or you can put in 8, or yeah, top off the the clip that is in the magazine. Okay, so pretty cool. And then the M14 or M1A, you know, loads like you would expect, like I just showed you. You got a magazine. Let's shoot a couple with it. Okay, very similar bolt, as you notice, the sights and setup and everything. This is basically the ultimate, the finale, in a way, of the Garand, the M1, okay? The M1. Got a round in the chamber. Let's smoke a little pot. I see one there. Oh, I can't see the sight too well. The sun on me, though. Let's put a round in the chamber, and then do it. There we go. Let's go back over there. Yeah, hit that same target. It's sweet, and I'm out of ammo already. Huh. Okay, I think I have another clip over here. Okay, I do think I have another clip. You know, do you see one? Yeah, there it is. There's another clip. Okay, so you can load this with a clip too. A lot of people don't realize that. Right down through the clip guide. Yeah, it's a little stiff. These clips I have not used much. Let me pull it out, try the other end of it, see if it's a little smoother. Wow, that one really is tight. Okay, then you just push them down into the magazine. watch me struggle with it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, using the wrong hand. That thing's been parkerized or something, and it's a little stiff. Make sure I got the safety on. Well, it's not cocked, so it won't go on. Well, I tell you, the difference too is I don't think those will fly out when you let the bolt go forward like a bolt gun. Yeah, it won't work that way. So I've got to get it out, and there we go. It let me put the safety on there. So let me get it pulled out. Well, let's cut, and then I'll get a pair of pliers and pull that out. Okay, that clip was seriously over parkerized or something. So I don't know, I hadn't even tried that one before. But this is one I was using earlier, and you can tell it's not as crazy, and it'll fit in there. And I've got some rounds in, but there we go. So it should just go down like that. It's not as smooth as a Mauser, but at least that one, yeah, there we go. Okay, now this one will actually come out. Okay, so I won't lose it. So anyway, these do load from a clip. So in fact, I read somewhere a soldier said that when he was in the service, they issued these with one magazine and then expected them to reload them that way. And now that probably wasn't the case in every unit or in every situation, but you know, a little bit like a Garand. They're treating the box magazine, which is easily removed, as almost a fixed magazine. So it's another way to do it. And also, you're not carrying a lot of these heavy magazines around. You're just carrying clips of ammo. You know? So I can see an advantage to that. And now I did it again. I got more ammo in there than I wanted. Isn't that terrible? Shoot this paper target a couple times. Oh, sweet. What else needs to be shot? There's another 2-liter. Over there. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a clay pot right in the middle of that stand. Smoked him. Let's go over there and hit a red plate or two. All right. What a sweet rifle. I'm going to try that little plate. Oh, man, on the last shot, popped him. Both of these rifles, one of the similarities, they both have wonderful sights, wonderful sights. And that was one of the reasons for the popularity and the reason the Garand was so loved, I think, because that was, you know, it just came out with these beautiful sights on it, this wonderful sights. So you got a little quick idea there of the loading system, you know, how that works and how you want the right clips. But you can load that, you know, through clips. Pretty cool. Or you can carry a bunch of magazines, and I think somewhere I have a mag pouch for the M14 magazines. It holds, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something. They click in there really sturdy so that you can push rounds down into it. You know, again, if you got a clip that works and fits. All right. So that's one of the big improvements, I guess you would say, over the Garand. Although, that said, you'll find people who really like this loading system. Here's some of this ammo from '69. I'm not necessarily going to put it in, but you know, that like this system, you carry a bunch of these and you just pop 8 in there, and if you are experienced with it, you can, you know, you're empty, you know, and the ping, and you grab another one, and you got 8 more rounds before you know it. So it's not like just because it's an 8-round firearm that you're at a huge disadvantage necessarily. It's a powerful round, okay? And the purpose of rifles back there in World War I, World War II were a little bit different, you know, and we won't get into all that, but a big rifle that would shoot a long distance and be very effective at long distance was more important at that time. And then gradually, you know, and even in World War II, we realized that, wow, the various countries, our enemies at the time, coming up with firearms that have higher capacity, sub-guns and more machine guns and sub-guns and portable, you know, machine guns and different things. And I think that's one of the reasons they wanted to add the capacity to this thing. And they even added the select fire capability, you know, with the M14. Now this is an M1A specifically. You've seen this in videos. It's not actually an M14, but basically the difference is it's not select fire. You know, doesn't have full auto capability. So they added that to the M14. and not very practical in most cases. You just have 20 rounds, powerful rounds, and you pull that trigger and it's empty before you know it, and a lot of recoil. There would be situations where it would be handy, but mainly the value in these rifles, both of these, is that the great sights and that aimed fire, you know, in both of these rifles. Okay, so like I said, trying to compare them both, loading system, where they fit. Again, this one 1936ish, along in there till about 1957, about that 20-year period. Saw service extensively, World War II, of course, Korea, and I think some of these even showed up in Vietnam, a few of them, and maybe other places around the world. We sold a lot of them after that, lent a lot of them, I think, and then the M14 was the service rifle from around 56, 57, I think, up until in the early to mid 60s, when the M16 took over. Okay, so this was actually used in Vietnam and was still the service rifle, I think, for about the first year or two of our involvement in Vietnam. So you'll see some of that early footage and early movies about Vietnam. A lot of people carrying these big heavy things. Okay, the 308, the 7.62 by 51 round. And then the M16 kind of took over. And one reason more people don't know about this rifle, it doesn't have the romance associated with it. Some people would take offense at that term, but you know what I mean. It just doesn't have the panache in a lot of ways. Oh wow, an M14, the history, like you do with the Garand. I mean, the history of this rifle is incredible. I mean, this very rifle was used in World War II. We've shown you this in several videos. It even has notches on the stock. You don't know if that's what you think it might be. It could be just somebody sharpening his knife, but this thing was in battle. And so, just the history of that, it's incredible to think about, and to be able to bring it out and shoot it, as I've talked about before. Well, this one's associated with World War II especially, and then of course the M14, I guess, is associated with Vietnam, which we're not real happy about. A lot of what happened in Vietnam, of course. Another one of those involvements that, well, we didn't really win it. Did we? I don't, just why were we there? There's just a lot of that surrounding it. Whereas World War II is very clear cut. We had to go to war, or it was going to be a different world. And then we, along with our allies, we won the thing, and this was a lot of the reason why we won it. Part of the reason. So the M14 doesn't have that kind of the connotations and associations with it that the Garand has, but it's a great rifle. It's the same rifle in a lot of ways. It's just an improved Garand, basically. Again, you might disagree with some of the improvements, but there we go. And I was going to, let's see, a couple other things. It's got, like I said, a shorter stroke on the gas system. I think the operating rod is shorter. They straightened it. It's a little simpler in some ways. The gun's a little bit lighter, not a lot, I think about a pound lighter, and you got a flash hider on the end, and now this one does not have the bayonet lug, but some of them do. The older ones, the M14s, I think all have the bayonet lug. So you have a few differences like that. The stock's a little different, but by and large it's the same operation, the same bolt and everything in action. Okay. Now this has this does have an M14 stock I put on it. It came with a polymer stock, and I just thought it'd be, now it's cracked. You probably noticed. We were noticing that before the video. It's cracking badly, so I need to buy another. I think I'll just get another stock like that. I'll get another M14 surplus stock and put on it. I just kind of like that, and keep it with wood and steel. Probably won't even buy a new one. I'll just get an old surplus stock and put on the thing. Just a great gun. Again, you got 20 rounds, and this one would seem to be the obvious choice. But you can load this thing pretty fast, and there's a lot of folks who have competed with these things, and they would swear by the by the Garand. Now, this was invented, of course, by John Garand. I'll pronounce his name correctly. His name was John Garand. I believe it was John C. Garand, but it's Garand. That's how he pronounced his name. He was Canadian. However, what does everybody call this rifle? Yeah, a Garand. Okay, so I'm going to call it a Garand, always have. Everybody I know calls it a Garand. Everybody I encounter calls it a Garand. Okay, even though John Garand pronounced his name Garand. All right, just nobody calls it that. I mean, probably somebody does, but I'm not going to be the one to step out there and call it something else. I want people to know what I'm talking about. And so we just call it a Garand. All right, so similar but different, and we wanted to kind of clue you in. And now the other thing I meant to mention, I lost my train of thought there, which is easy for me to do. I'm not very smart, but this gun was used early in Vietnam, but it's really never gone out of service. So in a way, the Garand still lives, because this is still the legacy of the Garand, because that thing, that M14, it's on a lot of ships. I know it's used in Afghanistan and Iraq. It was used. Even in Vietnam, after the M16 took over, and some of you that have been in the military and have experience, share, because I don't know exactly, but just from what I've read and talked to people, that there was one of these in a lot of units in Vietnam. It was nice to have somebody with a 308 and with this, okay? And I've read stories about that. One time, I read a story in a magazine one time in Vietnam where they needed to create they had a landing strip for the copters or whatever. There was a lot of trees around. There was one tree that was really a problem, and no one had anything to chop it down or whatever. And somebody had a M14, the person carrying the M14 in the squad or whatever, had plenty of ammo. He shot the tree off. He just shot the tree down. That was pretty funny, because you got power. You got that 308 round, that 7.62 by 51. So these guns have the ability to reach out. These rifles, they will reach out, and that's one reason they pulled a lot of them out of mothballs in Afghanistan and Iraq. They needed to reach out further distance, and so they're still in use. The M14s, a lot of them I think are in storage, but they have been pulled out, many of them, and it won't ever totally go away. So it's not associated with like one specific war. The M14 won the battle, in Vietnam or Iraq or somewhere like that, that Garand has in terms of history, but it just keeps on soldiering. It really does. A great rifle. I have had 2 Garands in my life. I've owned 2 of these, still have them. The only ones I've had trouble with, I don't know if I've ever had a misfire, a hang up even, with either of my M1As. I did have trouble with one of my first Garand. Now, I don't know. I didn't know as much about them then. I traded something for it, and I had trouble with the gas system. I just had trouble seeing the whole time I had it. Wasn't reliable. And I had trouble with the feeding system here too with that one. And I was really almost jaded about Garands. Wasn't sure I wanted another one. But fortunately, this one, it works well. And generally they do. They have a reputation for being reliable. I think, again, share your opinion. I do think that probably there are fewer problems with the M14 than the Garand in general, but they're both, pretty reliable. It's a tough choice. If you're looking to buy one, we'll get into that too a little bit. If you think you want one of these, you just need a 30-06 or a 308. And by the way, the 30-06, as we know, is a pretty powerful round. The 308 is a little shorter, but the ballistics with the NATO ammo, the ammo you're going to fire in these firearms, there's not much difference, okay? There's a 30-06 next to the 308 or the 7.62 by 51. There's just not really enough difference to talk about in terms of the ballistics in these rifles. Now, the advantage with the 30-06 is you can maybe load it up even hotter, bigger case and all that, like for hunting, but you don't want to use that in a Garand. You could bend the operating rod. So generally these rounds you keep them around 150, 60 grains, and you don't want like really powerful hunting rounds, in the Garand, because it could bend the operating rod. Okay, keep that in mind. With this one now, providing it functions fine, and it probably would, you could shoot hotter ammo in the M14, the M1A. All right, it will handle that. All right, so just for what that's worth. But if you're thinking of one of these two, it's a tough choice. The price is probably going to be a little higher on an M1A, because they typically, the cheapest you can buy a new one for, I think, is around $1,600, $1,700. That's just where they run. It might be up 2,000. Okay, and excuse me, the Garands have gone up, but I think you can find one that's, you know, a shooter, a pretty decent one, for probably around 1,000. You know, and then just depending on how correct it is and condition and all that kind of thing, it could be a lot more than that, a lot more. So just something to think about. And then 30-06, probably not quite as inexpensive or available as 308, but not a lot of, they're both going to cost you to shoot if you're going to shoot them much, right? And you wouldn't want, I don't know, if you got a really historical Garand, I don't know if you want to just wear it out anyway by shooting thousands of rounds through it. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. The history, again, is worth a lot to me. If I really had to give one up, I'm not planning to go to war where I need a 30 caliber cartridge like that or this. So if I had to give one up, I'd probably give up the M1A. I just really, really like the Garand and you know, the history associated with it. And because of that, whatever you pay for a Garand, it is a piece of real estate in a way, and it's going to go up, you know, in price. It's going to appreciate. Whereas, you know, an M1A, I don't know, it's going to appreciate that much. It's not going to lose value probably, but so that's something to think about. And also, you know, it just depends on how interested you are in history and all that sort of thing. But essentially, they're both the same gun, same operation, just with some refinements for the M14. Yeah, again, if you have anything you would like to add, feel free. Some of you who have experience with both, you know, maybe outside of video games, although in video games these are fairly common, right? And a lot of you learn about these. Hopefully you're actually learning something, you know, about these firearms, and you have interest in them, and that's why you're here. And that's what we like to do, show you the real thing and give you a little bit of the real facts about it. So it's great that you get introduced to it, you know, in some of these really realistic video games in terms of the firearms. I've seen enough of those. I don't really play them, but I have seen the firearms, and it's phenomenal. You feel like you actually have the real, you know, Garand in your hand. It just looks just like it. So they do a pretty good job on that. But you know, I don't know. It's to be a tough choice if you're looking to buy one. My easy solution is buy both. How's that? Because they're both really cool. So anyway, I'm rambling too much, but I wanted to give you just an overview of the difference between these two. They're oh, we got a watermelon we got to shoot, and I'll let you all decide which firearm gets to shoot it. Okay, but they're both cool. They're both really fun to shoot. Neither one recoils that much, even though they are, you know, fairly powerful rounds. The semi-automatic, you know, action and gas system, they're both gas operated, of course. I know it absorbs a lot of that and takes care of it, really. Yeah, I think the Garand, don't you all think the Garand is the one that needs to take it? I'll tell you what, we'll even shoot some of this Lake City ammo from 1969. Wow, I remember that year. Gosh, I was a hippie in college at the time. I had long hair. I was a freak. Nah, really. Well, actually, I've always been a freak, but I wasn't that kind of freak. Okay, now remember what I taught you. Hold that operating rod handle. Pull it. I didn't have the safety on. I should have. Although if it's not cocked, I don't think it'll go on. Okay, watermelon. What are you doing hanging around in November? And here's what happens to you. Okay. The venerable M1 Garand will do the job. Whoa. He must have been a little rotten, really. Interesting. Not much water in him, I guess. I've got one more round, I think. I want to put it over there on something. How about the gong? I think the Garand deserves to hit the gong now that it's AR 500. Oh man, what a rifle. Like I say, see, I could grab a clip and I could load it, boom, and I'm right back in action. So yeah, it's nice to have 20 rounds, but not necessarily the end all of everything, okay? Pretty cool. So those are the basic differences. There's some other minor ones you want to talk about, and fine. and share your opinions on which one you would rather have. It is kind of a tough choice because they're both great, and that advantage of the 20 rounds is attractive in having a box magazine. But this is pretty cool too, and all the parts, all the clips and everything are widely available. I've got some more clips for the M14. You might know, and I would grab the one that I pulled out of a bag that looked like it had been soaked in parkerization or whatever it's called, and you know, it wouldn't even fit. And we had to pull that thing out with pliers. John had to hold the rifle, and I destroyed it getting it out. It was that tough. So fortunately, nobody was shooting at me, because I couldn't even close the bolt. Those are the kinds of things you get into. So if you're in battle, or you're going to be in battle, you make sure you test all your equipment before you start using it, okay? A little word to the wise. So, two great rifles, and I am a proud owner of them, and I am glad they're in the family. They're fun to shoot. As I've said before, there's nothing like shooting these old war horses and war horses and enjoying them when nobody's shooting back. That's the best part. Life is good.
Oh, didn't realize you guys were here. You caught me doing some tactical film training. I come out here in the woods all the time and train on my my Canon XA30. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I wanted to let you guys know about our friends over at SDI, the Sonoran Desert Institute. They are a fully accredited online distance learning program where you can be certified in gunsmithing or get an associate's degree in firearms technology, which sounds pretty cool. So if you're interested in that, go over to sdi.edu. Also, I want to tell you about our friends over at vaultexsafes.com. You may have seen their little pistol safes on our shooting table in some of the videos. So if that looks interesting to you, go to vaultexsafes.com. And you may notice we also have some steel targets that we've been playing with. And those are from shootsomesteel.com. You can check them out at shootsomesteel.com. And what else we got? There's a few other places we are on the internet, like hickok45.com. We finally have a website. So you can go over there and kind of see everything that we've got going on over there. We also have some merchandise for sale over there. But you can find us on Facebook, Hickok45, and I have a John Hickok Facebook page. There's the real Hickok45 on Instagram. I have a John_Hickok45 Instagram page. Did I mention full30.com? We're over there too. So basically just go to the website, hickok45.com, and you can find all the different places that we're at. But you know, I've really got to get back to the training and everything. But you know, I appreciate you guys hanging around after the video. But I really need to train right now. So you know, I shouldn't even be talking to you guys. So I'll see you guys later.